Making headlines tonight, Prime Minister Mia Amor Mottley weighs in on the controversial IDB survey some first-form students were asked to take. The FTC BL&P rate hearings extended by 2 days. The increase in feed prices on hold for now. And in sports, Barbados takes the first step towards the construction of a new national stadium.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
A very good evening to this edition of CBC NewsNight. I'm Ryan Broom and our top story. Prime Minister Mia Amor Mottley has weighed in on the controversy surrounding an Inter-American Development Bank-sponsored survey that was administered to some first-form students. Now, a number of the questions had been red flagged as inappropriate by the Ministry of Education. Ms. Mottley, while acknowledging the apology tendered by the IDB, said the situation was regrettable.
I accept the apology of the Inter-American Development Bank with respect to the survey. But I really regret that the surveyor felt the need to do a high-wire act, especially after the Ministry of Education expressed to them their concerns and that those questions should have been taken out. I've said to the Minister that we need to ensure going forward, and I've had discussions with a number of people, that clearly we live in an era now where the Ministry will have to establish an ethics review committee to make sure that those things that you go into schools to talk to or to survey with respect to children pass a minimum threshold test, and that we are not therefore allowing persons to just feel that it is open season on our children.
And the Prime Minister adds that she has said to the Education Ministry the IDB must ensure the situation is corrected as a matter of urgency.
I thank them for their quick and rapid apology, but I say to them and to all others that Barbadian school children are not to be guinea pigs for people in circumstances where it is inappropriate, deeply, and where you are seeking to expose them to things that is especially age inappropriate. And the Ethics Review Committee, I believe, will help the Ministry manage and govern that process in a more effective way.
A bit of a reprieve tonight for local farmers regarding feed prices. Pinnacle Feeds is holding off on increasing the cost on Monday. Word of this from Managing Director of Roberts Manufacturing and Director of Pinnacle Feeds, Jason Sembrano. He told CBC News the company is reviewing and exploring its options in the aftermath of rising input prices.
During this review, we will not be raising prices. We are committed to arriving at the most sustainable solution and will aim to have a definitive decision in the very near future, which we will share with our customers and the wider public.
The Fair Trading Commission's hearings into a rate increase application by the Barbados Light and Power Company have been extended by an additional 2 days. That's because a number of outstanding matters still remain to be concluded, including the re-examination of the company's managing director, Roger Blackman. Now, today was originally intended to be the final day of the hearings, but just before the usual 4 p.m. close, Chairman Dr. Donley Carrington indicated that they would not be able to conclude within the 13 days that had been originally allotted. He then polled the interveners as to who would be available for the proposed additional days next Thursday and Friday, the 13th and 14th of October. Now, all of them indicated they would be able to do so. Well, meanwhile, earlier in the day, as testimony continued, it was the company's Manager of Regulatory Affairs, Dr. Adrian Carter, who continued to be cross-examined by both interveners and commissioners on a wide range of topics related to the company's rationale for a cost recovery and the thinking that went into the quantum of its rate increase request. At one point, he responded to a question from the intervener team of Tricia Watson and David Simpson as to whether the company could possibly see a drop in demand with an increase in its rates.
Our rate increase, our rate request that we have proposed, the net effect of it is actually reduced prices and not increased prices. One of the key drivers of this application as given evidence by the Director of Asset Management and the Director of Operations, as well as the Director of Finance. One of the key drivers is our clean energy plant that was recently commissioned and is providing service to customers. Now, the net effect of that plant in service and the increase that we are requesting here in this application, it's actually a reduction in prices for most customers.
A way is being suggested as to how Barbadians can acquire a solar energy system. It's the reverse mortgage. According to Minister of Energy and Business Kerry Simmons, this approach is widely used in the United States. Minister Simmons was at the time addressing the question and answer segment of a community meeting at the Alexandra School on investing in renewable energy.
You live in a house for 30, 40 years. You've come to the point where you are now no longer working or on the point of retirement. Your home has been paid off. The children may be there or they may be elsewhere, perhaps living elsewhere. Now the house now should be an instrument which can be used for you to source that which is necessary to maintain it. Too often, in your constituency, Sandra, and mine, we see the beginning of what is really genteel poverty, where people have come to that point where they're no longer working, they are in a retirement phase, but their ability to maintain their homes in the conditions that they want to is becoming a bit of a burden.
And Barbadians have been given some further insight into how renewable energy can become a money earner. Chief Energy Conservation and Renewable Energy Officer William Hines shared some of the strides made in the sector, especially solar and the recent developments allowing for the sale of electricity to the Barbados Light and Power Company. Now, during a presentation titled "Money is Falling on My Roof," he weighed the benefits and costs as he encouraged citizens to get on board.
We really have not had the opportunity to do this until recently for about 4 reasons. The first reason is empowerment by government to make sure that when you have your investment, someone's going to buy the electricity from you. The other reason is not only government has empowered for you to buy the electricity, but in 2019, I believe it is, the regulator offered a 20-year opportunity for you. It's like if you were a vendor selling fish or cucumber and you go to the market one day and people say we only want 10 pounds, 20 pounds, and the next day they're only buying 5 pounds.
Natural gas customers tonight are being warned of possible interruptions to service. This is according to Public Relations Officer with the National Petroleum Corporation, Samantha Hazelwood-Ermey.
At 12 noon today, October 7th, the flow of gas was still steady and there had been no customer complaints. However, we are asking that our customers be aware that they may experience reduced gas levels and inevitably gas outage. The shipment is currently en route and we anticipate that gas supply will return to normality by Saturday, October 8th, 2022. Again, we thank the public for their understanding during this time.
We take our first pause here, but we're back with more news after the break. Welcome back. With the drafting of new child protection legislation will forge a closer relationship between the Child Care Board, the Barbados Police Service and other stakeholders, including the legal profession. Now, in the interim, a stakeholder workshop on reporting child abuse and the creation of a procedural protocol was organized between the Child Care Board and key partners. Program Assistant at UNICEF, Risha Husbands, reminded those present child protection and law enforcement agencies have a shared responsibility to keep children safe.
Here in Barbados, concerned citizens, and we hope very soon mandated reporters of suspected cases of child abuse, may report suspected maltreatment to either agency. According to several studies, findings show that at present, child protection cases in Barbados require a more cohesive state response. Findings also show that progress in this area continues to be slow, impeded by concerns such as confidentiality and theft, as well as by cultural, structural, and bureaucratic barriers.
Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, Corey Lane, says government takes child abuse and its prevention seriously. He says it has worked with its partners to put together what he considers the most comprehensive and serious child protection bill Barbados and the region will see in a long time.
The only persons I feel that will be disturbed by this piece of legislation are child abusers. This legislation takes us out of the realm of endangering the life of the child with a provision of a charge and a fine of $24 into fines in the region of $100,000. And that is just for those who fail, in some cases, to report, to make false reports, and the line go on and on. But it speaks to the seriousness that this government and this ministry plays now in relation and pays towards the seriousness of child abuse.
Barbados is against the exclusion of the elderly in the technology and marketing spheres. Parliamentary Secretary again in the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, Corey Lane, is suggesting they are very anti-aging focused with products that do not embrace the elderly. Mr. Lane says ageism remains a challenge in Barbados. He updated the Pan-American Health Organization and the Organization of American States on strides made, saying aging must be looked at through a multifaceted lens.
Finance and the economy are critical in promoting healthy aging. There will be an increase in cost of living as one age, and there must be a focus on pensions and financial safety nets, both public and private. The continued involvement of seniors in generating income past retirement, because as we said earlier, with increased cost of living, there will be a need for increased income to treat to that increased cost. A holistic support service for our most vulnerable seniors is necessary, but that comes at a cost and a significant cost. Reducing the current existing burdens on the entities such as our healthcare system and welfare systems are things that we also see as challenges that we are currently trying to address.
A warning from Barbados that existing hardships could worsen as tighter monetary policies in developed countries and the strengthening U.S. dollar are compounding existing economic and climate crises in the Americas. According to Permanent Representative to the Organization of American States, Ambassador Noah Lynch, countries in the Americas are currently trying to overcome 3 serious crises that threaten their wholesome and sustained development. These include a cost of living crisis brought on by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, developing country debt crises following COVID-19 pandemic, and climate disasters. Ambassador Lynch, in his address to a ministerial meeting of the Summit Implementation Review Group of the OAS in Peru, told fellow diplomats 1 in 5 countries is experiencing fiscal and financial stress.
If these crises go unaddressed, they will certainly deepen hardship already being felt, being experienced. There will be debt defaults, widening inequality, political upheaval, and a delayed transition to the low-carbon world that is necessary for continued human existence. Global leaders, Mr. President, are now adept and experienced in managing crises. They have the means and they have the knowledge, but we must act now. We cannot and must not create a reputation for rescuing banks and saving corporations. We must also be good at saving countries.
And Ambassador Lynch shared with the OAS a 3-step process proposed by Barbados to tackle these vexing challenges.
Step 1 must be the provision of emergency liquidity to the developing world. Step 2, the expansion of multilateral lending to developing states. And step 3, the establishment of novel multilateral mechanisms to activate private sector savings for climate mitigation and to fund reconstruction after a climate disaster.
Well, it's time now for a first look at sports. So we head over to the sports studio and say good evening to Anne-Marie Burke. Anne-Marie, what do you have for us in the first half?
Well, I'm going to say some good news I think is coming as another step has been taken towards a new national stadium. There was an exchange of letters of intent between the government of Barbados and the Republic of China this afternoon for the reconstruction of the stadium facility at Waterford. The Minister of Sports, Charles Griffith, signed on behalf of the government of Barbados, while Chinese Ambassador His Excellency Yang Shusheng represented the Chinese government. The signing had additional significance as it marked 45 years of diplomatic ties between the two countries and also the 73rd anniversary of the founding of the Republic of China, which was a few days ago on October the 1st. Now, Prime Minister Mia Amor Mottley says the reconstruction of the stadium will be carried out in 2 phases to accommodate training and qualification for the next Olympic Games.
This agreement is grant money. It's not a loan. It is grant funding. And it is in recognition of what really is 45 years of strong diplomatic relations between the People's Republic of China and now the government and people of Barbados. We are happy that we have been able to do this. The ambassador will tell you that I have been very clear that we may have to do it in 2 phases, because I do not want in any way for us not to have the opportunity for our people going to trials for the Olympics in 2024 to be affected. And therefore, as far as possible, we will try to make sure that we can have access to the track facilities by the beginning of 2024, even if it means that we have to go back and finish additional stands.
The Prime Minister also says there are plans to upgrade facilities for sports like cycling, aquatics and football.
Nobody cycles on an outdoor concrete velodrome anymore. Not good for you. And therefore we need to be able to build an appropriate velodrome in the future. And the aquatic center is lovely, but we need to be able, as a country surrounded by sea, to get into the area of diving. And therefore there are no proper facilities for that. We want to see us eventually going towards there, but we also want to see us utilizing the beach more efficiently. With respect to football, back to the stadium, as I said, Kensington does not lend itself to football. Don't let anybody fool you. You understand? It just don't. And what we are prepared to do is therefore, apart from where the People's Republic of China will be helping us rebuild the national stadium there, that we will continue to work with the Brewster's Trust and others to see how we can amplify football with the BFA and them. And not only at Wildy, but clearly international games are always best where? At the stadium.
Meanwhile, Ambassador Xu Sheng says the new stadium is another example of their friendship with Barbados.
The redevelopment of the national stadium will play an important role in the post-pandemic economy recovery of Barbados, providing employment, developing sports, improving people's livelihoods, and implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development.
Tonight's business report brought to you by the City of Bridgetown Cooperative Credit Union Limited, measuring success 1 member at a time.
Topping business tonight, Barbadians are underinsured. That observation was made by Pan American International Insurance Corporation's agency manager, Charlton Sargent. Now, he made the comment as the company prepares to observe its 10th anniversary later this month. And he told the business report, with so many people underinsured, they pass on poverty rather than profits.
Recently, we're hearing a lot of conversation. We're talking about NIS is under pressure and stuff like that. You can have various types of insurance products, whether it be a life product, an endowment product that can solve a lot of these problems. And that is why it's very important that people sit down with any member of the Pan American family so we can explain the benefits of how these plans work so that they can be properly insured. But when you look at the numbers, Barbadians are underinsured because we don't really understand the value of having an estate. An estate is basically what you're leaving behind for someone.
Association of Banks says there's been significant change in the operations of banks in the region over the years. Chief Executive Officer Wendy Delmar says the region has moved from a period people feared job losses with the embrace of computers and the bank card. She sees exciting times ahead, especially given developments with financial technology or fintech. Ms. Delmar was among the panel for the latest Caribbean Economic Forum, where the topic moving to digital payments, what does it mean for me, was discussed.
For me, it has been a very exciting period, and I think we are entering that sort of phase again, where we're hearing so much about fintech and regtech and how this is going to shape the banking landscape. I think there's a lot of positive to be had. Like everything else, we are always concerned about what is the impact going to be to the economies of the islands, noting that we are so fragile, so to speak, right? I think most persons would be very au fait with the conversations around correspondent banking and de-risking. And so we also have to be cognizant of how these sorts of technologies will impact those pervasive issues that the banks have continued to face.
And that's our news package on behalf of the entire team. Thanks for being with us over the past hour. Do have a good night and enjoy your weekend ahead.
Thanks for visiting us. To get more stories like this one, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.